for the Teaneck Police Department and for the township in your 30 years of true dedication to the community. You're very much appreciated and sorely missed. So congratulations, Chief.
I remember, Chief Wilson, when I got the email saying that you were retired, and there are very few times where you're in utter shock and your stomach just goes empty, and that's how I felt, because you know, as I've gotten to know you, and I call you Bobby, you know, you came as chief when I first came on council, and the amount of information that you taught me in those first 2 years, and then the information that you've taught me while I was mayor, and the relationship that we always had of, okay, this is going on, what do I do? Or this is happening, and how do I handle this? And how do we go and work through situations in all sectors of the town, whether it was dealing with politicians who wanted some requests on Cedar Lane, whether it was dealing with somebody with dog barks, whether it was dealing with people biting, whether dealing with shootings, whether dealing with illegal hotels, everything that all the problems that you dealt with day in and day out, and that I can't believe that you've done it for 30 years with probably the same amount of professionalism that I've got to know you as. Was just a tremendous accomplishment. I can say this now that I looked up to you. I still look up to you at how you did this job, and I've learned so much for you. The best thing about both of you guys is that you're Teaneck guys, 10 years my senior, and you loved our town, and you really passed down to us, even as council members, what it means to be in public service. We've worked through storms. We've worked through everything else. I mean, I don't know if it was appropriate to mention it or not, but like I didn't know when I was in high school, you guys were the guys protected me while the riots were going on. And it's something that like I never thought about. How do you say thank you to that? And at the time, you don't even think about the guys who are on the street. But then over and over in this job, I learned that how you and everybody who comes here to support you in the police department, the fire department, our first responders, our DPW, just cares and takes care of our town to the point where you put us ahead of your own families. We have a debt that we can never repay. We thank you for all your years of service. We will miss you. I will really miss you, but I hope this is good luck and not goodbye. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, can I?
Hold on 1 second. We also have a certificate of appreciation. Chief Robert Wilson, on the occasion of celebrating your retirement after 30 years of outstanding service and dedication with the Teaneck Police Department and the Township Council and the Township Manager hereby express grateful appreciation for your devotion and loyalty to this township. Teaneck is proud of the record of service of its employees who have contributed to the reputation of this township as one of the most progressive municipalities in the state of New Jersey. The Township Council realizes fully that progress in municipal government is predicated for the most part upon the loyalty and efficiency of the municipal employees and on their ability to carry out faithfully and effectively the responsibility of their position. This certificate is awarded in grateful appreciation of your long and honorable record of service with the Township of Teaneck. Signed and sealed by the Township Council. Thank you. Councilman Katz?
Chief, I don't congratulate you for leaving. I'm very, very sad, to be honest with you. And the only redeeming quality of this sad moment is the fact that you're leaving some amazing people behind in great positions. Your acting Chief Carney, Captain Glenn O'Reilly, Captain Kunkrest, and all the great men and women that serve the police department. I worked very hard, and some of my colleagues worked very hard to see that you were made chief during a time when there's a lot of challenges in the police department. And you came in, you brought some additional professionalism, renewed professionalism, renewed camaraderie and morale, not to mention the very nice 100-year badges that you've just added before you left, which I've been asking for one. But no, I am very, very thankful, and you've not just added the professionalism, but you've added a personalization. So many residents have told me that they've called you on their cell phone, and I thought I felt special until they told me that. and you got back to them, and you're responsive to the residents, and that's why all of us are working for the residents of this town. We're here to serve, and you've done that very, very well, and we wish you lots of success in everything you continue to do. Thank you.
I think there's 3 words in that proclamation that really sums it up. It's long and honorable record. It's 34 years that I moved to this town this week, right into Chief Wilson's neighborhood, the old homestead, around the apartments, and what a ride it's been since then, particularly for me. I feel particularly honored due to my work up at the police academy. I get to see the chief. I got to see the chief very often up there. We have quite a number of graduates of the police academy since you started as a police officer, since you started as a chief. So I think it's all about the leadership and the leadership that you've shown the department and this town in general. So Godspeed to you. And we'll be seeing you around. Congratulations.
Dr. Pruitt?
It's not easy for a police department in a multicultural town to have the positive relationship with the community that this town has had with Chief Wilson during his time. I've been here in Teaneck a long time, and it was not always that way. And we're going to miss Chief Wilson because his time was one where the community and the police department worked together in a very positive way, and I appreciate that.
Just touching on what everyone else said, I had similar feelings. My stomach wasn't empty. I was like something. I said something I'm not going to repeat on camera when I first heard it because it was a shock, and I didn't know what we were going to do. You've been the only chief I've known since I've been here, and I think the word is community policing. You've been a community chief, and that's something that when we need something for the community, you've been able to tackle it with the resource that we have or we haven't been able to provide, and you've been able to handle it looking at it from a police department view, which is your job, but also from a council point of view, from a community point of view, from a friend point of view, and that's something that I definitely know the leadership and something we've seen with Acting Chief Carney, on the holidays coming around, and I think it's something that we look forward to, not just your immediate successors, but the younger guys here as well, who I've seen on the ambulance corps, and you definitely leave us with good hands. We're definitely in good hands. We're definitely going to miss you, and good luck.
There's a saying I've heard a few times about the relationship between a chief and his force, and it goes something like, there's only 2 chiefs the police force likes, the last chief and the next chief. And so we have a fortunate moment in time where you and Acting Chief Carney get to both fall into that category. Enjoy it while you can, especially you, Acting Chief Carney. But just want to wish you the best of luck for you and your family, and much success in the next steps in your career, wherever that may take you. You've earned our gratitude and our respect, and I hope that takes you a long way to even higher heights as you move forward in your career.
Is there any department head that would like to say anything? Any department head?
Yeah, Bob, I just want to say it's, on behalf of all the members of the department, that it's been a true pleasure to work with you and to learn from you. I've been, working with you for 24 years, and, I consider you a friend, and I want to thank you for everything that you've done for me personally and professionally, and you will be missed, and you have till September to come back.
Chief, I echo everything that was said about you. You have your heart and soul you have given to Teaneck for all of these years, and I appreciate all the support that you've given the department and to me, and I wish you all the luck in the world in your new position.
I've had the pleasure, Bob, to work with you for 30 years. good things to the police department. You're a true professional. You're always going to be successful in whatever you do. And more importantly, you're a good person. And everybody here appreciates that. And you're a true friend. And good luck with everything you do.
So I sat today and I thought about like what I was going to say today. You know, like what do you say after 30 years? So first of all, thank you to the council. I'd like to thank all of you, the manager. Please know that when I jousted with you for money, if I was disrespectful, I meant it because I was angry, but I didn't mean it personally. I meant it because I cared. It was all about caring because I really cared about doing the right thing for the people in the department, and it really matters to me. And I was. I guess I can say it now. I was pissed at times, and I wanted the money. I always wanted to be able to do something like that at the end, so I guess I can do it now. To the people in the department, I mean, the reality is, it wasn't really that hard. It was hard at times to run at things, but the reality is, everybody probably says this, but we really do have a bunch of people that really care about the town. They care about, and believe me, I've seen it just in the last month, how hard it is to get people that really care about doing things the right way for the right reasons, and we have that, and you really have to please embrace that in all the employees, but I can speak specifically for the police department. They care about doing things the right way and for the right reasons. They really do care, and you can't pay enough for that, and you can't buy that, and you can't teach that. You either have it or you don't, and these guys have it. We have a really great police department. I'm biased, of course, I should be, but trust me, if you just look around the county and you look closely at towns, some of them are very close, you realize how good we have it and what you really have, and people that really care, even when it's painful and when we hurt ourselves by criticizing ourselves and evaluating ourselves within the police department. We do it because it's the right thing to do, and we get mad at each other at times, and we fought, the captains and the deputy chief. No, we fought. We did a lot of screaming. And where's Susan? We never cursed, of course, but it was because it was passion, and the reality was when the passion was in the office and we maintained it in the office, and then when we came out, we agreed that we disagreed, but we knew that going forward, we were going forward in a unified fashion, and that was something that I thank these guys especially for, and Mark. I don't know where Mark went to, but for Mark also, there he is. I guess I didn't see you sit up here, and the girls. I just think that it's really, for me, 30 years, I don't know where the heck it went. I don't feel like I've been here for 30 years. My whole adult life has been here. I talked to a friend of mine with 25 years in the police department, and I was saying all these different things and these great experiences, and he goes, it's interesting how after you leave, you only think about the positive things. And he's right, because the reality is there's a lot of really horrible things that I saw in my life, and everybody in this room that's a police officer understands that. I saw a lot of death, a lot of destruction. I was really angry at different times in my career because of things that happened. But in the end, the experience was greater and more positive than it was negative by any far stretch of the imagination. And it was really a great job. It's one of the greatest jobs in the world. And if my children would ever want to go into law enforcement, I would have them. None of them want to go into law enforcement, so that's fine too. I have family in the law enforcement. I think it's one of the greatest jobs in the world, and it's a meaningful thing. It's painful, it's hard, and it's tough on your family at different times. But I really do want to thank you. I can't believe how many people turned out. Department heads, all of you, Anthony. I'm going to miss working with you. It's always like a phone call, and just, we joust back and forth on different issues within our departments, a lot of similarities. And Glenna, of course, I'm going to miss you. My secretary, I miss her a lot. I talk to her a lot. I couldn't have did it without her. And every one of you, I really do appreciate it. You guys are professionals, and those of you that are just coming into the organization realize how much people care. I mean, when you go to the detective bureau or you go to the traffic bureau or any of these guys, and you talk to them, they talk to you and they get mad about things and they have passion about it. That's because they really care about what they're doing and they care about the end product. The detectives in the police department really care about doing everything the right way, and it's a great thing to be a part of. Thank you so much. The residents, thank you for giving me this opportunity as well. Also, my two favorite attorneys.
Robbie Langert here? Robbie? Yeah. I saw it. Can we just close the doors? How are you, Norma? The next item on our agenda is our annual proclamation for Arbor Day. We'll be having their event on May 28th. We just got the email. Okay, so our proclamation reads, whereas in 1872, Sterling Morton proposed to Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees, and whereas this holiday known as Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska and is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife, and whereas trees are renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products, and whereas trees in our township increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of the business areas, beautify our community, and are a source of joyful and spiritual renewal, and whereas Teaneck has recognized as a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation and desires to continue its tree planting ways, now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the Council of the Township of Teaneck, do hereby proclaim Friday, April 25th, 2014, as Arbor Day. Would you like to say a few words?
Well, thank you, everybody. I think we all know how important trees are, not only just in Teaneck, but around the world. Without trees, as the mayor said, there are a lot of deficiencies in our environment. So we hope that we can all work together from now and henceforth to make sure that our trees stay around for eternity. Thank you.
The next item on tonight's agenda, we have a presentation from for a stigma-free zone by Maria and Mary Ann Uzi. Come on up.
Good evening. My name is Maria Aberstory, and I live at 493 Linden Avenue in Teaneck. In addition to being a Teaneck resident, I am also a member of our county mental health board. Mary Ann Uzi is a member of Paramus Stigma Free Zone. She had family obligation tonight, so Joe Mashandero, who is CEO of Care Plus New Jersey and also a member of Paramus's task force, came with me as a representative of Paramus's Stigma Free program. I want to thank the council for having me here tonight. I especially would like to thank Councilwoman Parker. I reached out to her about having a stigma-free zone in Paramus, and she was gracious enough to pass on my request to you, and I appreciate your time. In March of this year, I attended a county freeholder meeting, and at that meeting, Mary Ann Uzi of Paramus Stigma-Free Zone gave a wonderful presentation about this initiative that they've been working on in Paramus for the past year. It was well received by our county elected officials and by our county health department, and the county health department and the mental health board are at this point developing tools and resources so that this initiative can be replicated in towns throughout Bergen County. So you're probably wondering, what is a stigma-free zone? The purpose of this program is to address the stigma of mental illness. Because of the judgments that people place on themselves or they perceive others having of them due to their mental illness, often persons with mental illness do not seek out treatment. And this has been cited as a primary reason for many people who are experiencing symptoms why they don't go for help. So a stigma-free zone is a community where people with mental illness are free of the stigma and can get the help that they need. And these zones are created by building coalitions of citizens, local government, business owners, school officials, and faith communities that support training, education, and dialogue about mental illness. By coming together as a community, we can dispel myths, break down walls, and develop an environment of acceptance, and then move forward to show others how to do the same. So why is it important that we as a community have a dialogue about mental health? I have some statistics for you. 1 in 4 adults will suffer from a diagnosable mental illness during any given year. Mental disorders are the leading cause of disability in the United States. Suicide is the 3rd leading cause of death in our youth, ages 15 to 24, and 90% of those youth who commit suicide have a mental disorder. This is a public health concern. Untreated mental illness affects not only those individuals, but their families and ultimately our community. So why Teaneck? I believe that Teaneck has a history of addressing social problems directly and as a community. I've seen us do it as far as school integration many, many years ago. We did it with community policing, and I believe that we as a town can do it now with creating a stigma-free zone for persons with mental illness. When I heard Mary Ann speak at the Freeholders meeting, I was brought back to the very tragic and public suicide of one of our community's youth last year. And that took place in Paramus. And at the time, I have kids who were late teens, 20-somethings. A lot of the youth of that age group were very confused and asking, what can we do? What didn't we see? What can we do about this? And Councilwoman Parker and I had conversations about that because she's very involved with the Youth Advisory Board and I'm on the Mental Health Board. When I heard about Paramus Stigma-Free Zone, I thought to myself, this is something we can do. This is something youth can be involved in, our business community can be involved in, local government, our school system, and I think that we have the infrastructure to make this as successful as it has been in Paramus. Paramus, last May, Mary Ann Uzi went and spoke to the mayor of Paramus with this suggestion. And after explaining stigma-free and mental illness, the mayor appointed a task force. So that's kind of what I'm here to ask you to do. If the town could establish a task force to take on this community education project. And from last May until now, Paramus has been able to accomplish wonderful things. They've received grant monies to provide mental health first aid training. They have the children in school involved in creating bracelets. It's part of their education. They're having a town hall meeting on May 8th for people to come together and discuss this. They have a website and they're on social media with articles about mental illness and where to get help. It's really amazing the amount of work that they've been able to accomplish in the last year. We're kind of ahead of the game because the county has offered to provide some resources that Paramus had to produce themselves. And, I'm just hoping that the council will recognize the effect that mental illness has on our community, recognize the effect that stigma has, and continue to be proactive in dealing with social problems as we have in the past. So I want to thank you for your time.
No, thank you. I really appreciate you coming in and bringing this to our attention. It's one of those things that it's not necessarily something that I support because I think it's our duty as council people and my duty as mayor to support this because exactly everything you said about mental illness is so true with the stigma that I see even from growing up in a different community where people don't get treated because of the stigma involved. And I really appreciate you bringing this to light and bringing this to council. And we will set up a subcommittee and then contact you to set up a task force. As long as
I'd like to be part of it. I mean, I think, and I've said this before, that mental illness, I think, is the disease that needs to be addressed in the 21st century, similar to where cancer treatment and cardiovascular disease were reported tens of billions, if not trillions of dollars in the greater part of last century. And I think it's it's something that should be treated before it gets to a point. You know, we talk gun control, but really a lot of this is in terms of treating and addressing mental illness, and like you said, addressing it, not hiding from it. And I'd like to serve on that subcommittee as well if possible.
So we have 3 members who will be on the subcommittee, and the clerk will be in touch. She has your contact information, and we'll set up a meeting, and we'll start going from there. Thank you so much for bringing this to
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your support. Thank you.
Before we start the public hearing and adoptions of ordinances, the township attorney would like... Okay. All right. If the clerk would like to read the ordinances for ordinance 70214 and ordinance number 8-2014.
Ordinance 7-2014, an ordinance amending Chapter 33, Development Regulations of the Code of the Township of Teaneck, respecting the establishment of the L1-2, Light Industry 2 District, and adding the definition of Family Entertainment Center. Ordinance number 8-2014, an ordinance amending Chapter 33, Development Regulations of the Code of the Township of Teaneck, respecting the establishment of the R-AH Residential Affordable Housing District.
Declare the meeting's now open. Would anyone like to comment on ordinance number 7-2014 or 8-2014?
Mr. Mayor, before the public gets to speak, if I could just make one very brief announcement on these ordinances. These ordinances have been the zoning ordinance of the Township of Teaneck. Both of these ordinances were the subject of and are contained in a specific recommendation contained in a re-examination of the master plan. In addition, both of these ordinances had been referred to the planning board, and the planning board has, by resolution, recommended the adoption of both of these ordinances.
Seeing no hands, these meeting. Okay, come on up.
Dr. Alex Rashin, Teaneck. I just basically have a question for clarification. It's given by the block, lot, and all this stuff. It's one thing. I would like to know where it is exactly. Okay, just tell crossroads and whatever it is. And the second thing, I didn't notice anywhere there any, say, for example, retail center or whatever it is, because I don't know why only administrative or whatever, or office buildings or something like that. What dictates that only particular things are listed as a possible use for these new zones of light industry or whatever it is? I would like to have explanation of why and what, because we were talking about Alfred Avenue. Is it related? Not is it related? It's difficult to understand. You see, for that I need a map and try to find out. I ask this question. Please explain. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Seeing no hands, the hearing is now closed. The 2 properties that we're talking about is one is across from the Dairy Queen, which is the abandoned gas station. The developer came over with the plan. He presented to the planning board, and the planning board made the recommendation to us. The other zoning amendment is to World of Wings, and they needed a gaming, because they have video games there, so that's where they made those applications. And World of Wings is a museum. They have a dining hall, they have a museum, they have all sorts of educational activities, birthday parties, and things of that nature. So that's why those 2 properties were, because they built it, and then they poured plans, and then they brought it to the planning board, and the planning board made the recommendation to us. Somebody like to move? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Stern?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Gusman?
Yes.
Councilmember Pruitt?
Yes.
Councilmember Katz?
Yes.
Councilmember Schwartz? Mayor?
Yes. Before we start good and welfare, we have a statement from our attorneys.
This will constitute my legal report for the evening in closed session. We discussed the lawsuit brought by Mr. Castle and Mr. Sohn, and I'd like to report, I've reported this to council and I'll report it to the public, and coming out of this meeting will be 2 new resolutions, L and M, which the clerk will put on the desk. In my capacity as township attorney and in an effort to limit unnecessary legal expenses in courts, on April 24th, we have voluntarily accepted service of the legal action filed against the township of Teaneck and several of its appointed and elected officials. Since the 5 named councilmen, the manager, and the clerk have been sued in their individual capacities as well as in their official capacities, there's a potential for a conflict of interest for a single attorney to represent them both in these 2 capacities. Therefore, we have advised those persons that they will need to retain attorneys other than our office for representation in their individual capacities. The 5 council persons, the manager, and the clerk have requested the township to provide them with defenses. Pursuant to the township code, they will be entitled to be indemnified for their legal costs and expenses. This evening, there are resolutions providing them with defenses as required. Our office will represent all the named defendants in their official capacity as well as the township of Teaneck. We anticipate that Nancy Luciana will represent the clerk in her personal capacity and that Thomas Hanrahan will represent all others in their personal capacities. We are in the process of complying with Judge Doyne's order to show cause. We anticipate that we will prove that the timing of the Oprah requests and the timing of the filing of the lawsuits were politically motivated and intended to disrupt the workings of the clerk's office. Despite the requests being overly broad and burdensome, the clerk's office supplied hundreds, if not thousands, of documents to the plaintiffs. I think we're up to almost 9,000 sheets at the last counting, or their representatives. We intend to prove that this lawsuit is without legal merit and filed solely for political advantage. This will be a time-consuming and expensive lawsuit dealing with thousands of documents. Our legal response is currently due on May 12th, and the matter is scheduled to be heard by the court on May 30th. The 2 new resolutions for tonight, Resolution L, which I'll just read a summary of, is a resolution authorizing the execution of a professional service contract with Thomas B. Hanrahan Associates with special counsel in connection with Jason Castle and Alan Sohn versus Jamie Evelina et al. To represent certain named township officials in their individual capacities, and their hourly billing rate is $200 an hour is what they've agreed to do it at. The township code provides to pay and then indemnify at the average cost of attorneys in Bergen County. $200 is below the average cost of Bergen County. Mr. Hanrahan's firm will represent Mayor Hamaduddin, Deputy Mayor Gusson, Councilman Stern, Councilman Katz, Councilman Schwartz, and Township Manager William Broughton in their individual capacities. When this resolution is moved for adoption, each individual should recuse on the section that's applicable to them. In the event that this has to be re-ratified, it will be re-ratified at the May 20th meeting. There's no time. We must get to work to file this answer to be timely. So these people must know that they're going to be authorized to represent the individuals in their capacity. This Resolution M is a similar resolution just for the clerk, and that's to retain the Luciano firm at, again, the rate of $200 an hour. And the clerk can put those out if they want.
Do you have to read that resolution?
They're out there. We're not going to read it into the record. They're out there if anyone wants to see them. They're standard resolutions which we've used before when outside counsel have had to be retained in a standard professional service contract. The rate is $200 an hour.
Okay.
That's my report.
Yeah. Next item on tonight's agenda is good and welfare. This is where anybody can speak on any topic that they would like. Mr. Burke.
Bill Burke, 320 Griggs Avenue, Teaneck, New Jersey. I also happen to be the president of Teaneck Junior Soccer League. Recently, a bunch of the volunteers for the Teaneck Junior Soccer League were together doing our annual ritual, count all the equipment. What's missing? What do we have to order? We happen to be doing it right next to the Sportsplex. As we looked across that field, a conversation occurred that had never been happened in our entire history. What opportunity this provides us, the children we serve, and the families we serve in Teaneck. What I think has been lost sometimes along the way is that this is correcting an issue we've had for years. Muddy, swampy, unplayable, and at times unsafe fields. Times when we had to cancel 25% of games. 1 year, no games were played on one of the fields. It was underwater the entire fall. What this does is open up the possibility of what we're doing as an organization. So tonight I'm here to thank the council, the mayor, the deputy mayor, Councilman Stern, Councilman Pruitt, Councilman Katz, Councilman Schwartz, for their leadership and support of this project. Because of this project, we as an all-volunteer organization is expanding our offerings to the residents of Teaneck. We could only ever do fall rec before because we couldn't trust the facilities or the fields or anything else. We today are moving forward with fall and spring programs. We recently announced a new travel club program because for the first time we could trust that those fields could actually hold games on it no matter what time of year it is. So on behalf of our 900 players, the parents, the grandparents who used to have to sludge through the mud to get to a game, thank you. Thank you for bringing a dream that started more than 10 years ago to really at our doorsteps as the fields get ready to open, and giving us the opportunity to expand the recreational offerings to the residents we support. Thank you. Thank you.
Next, Jane.
Jane Irwin, with my companion, Natalie Addison. We are representing the Senior Citizen Advisory Board. If we have a disaster tomorrow, what are we going to do? By some miracle, we have escaped outages this winter, but this town is not prepared for emergencies. As a result of the Sandy storm, many people, both young and old, spent a lot of time, sometimes as much as a week or more, without electricity, no heat, no contact with anyone, and no warming shelter available. A situation that should never happen again. A Teaneck Senior Citizen Advisory Board Committee has been working for more than a year and a half on 3 essential issues, and nothing has happened. These are the issues. Number 1, to identify our most vulnerable population and to inform them about available services, warming centers, medical services, transportation to shelters, etc. Transportation. We have had numerous meetings as a group and individually with the police department, fire department, emergency management, and the town manager. Their response has been, seniors have to take care of themselves. A euphemism for, please don't bother us. Regardless of any suggestions we have made, there is still no transportation arrangement to take any place of warmth or safety. This attitude is untenable and outrageous. 3, a public address system that does not require electricity or phone service. We have actually met with the writer of the Teaneck Emergency Preparedness Guide for a town map of emergency fire boxes to be inserted, and it never was done. Why not? Do you know where your fire boxes are? We have a responsibility to our vulnerable population to provide them with basic emergency services when necessary. We are our brother's keepers. So if we have a disaster tomorrow, what are we going to do? Here are a few of our recommendations. Number 1, identify vulnerable residents through surveys, flyers, and possible religious institutions. Include list of good morning call residents. Safeguarding of information is essential to assure privacy and security to residents. Fort Lee has a register-ready program for seniors and other vulnerable people. People can register by calling 211 or go online. 2, allocate funds for a township-wide communication system not relying on electricity. Neighboring communities have this system already in place. It can broadcast info during emergencies. It has a solar and battery backup. 3, develop a timeline for completion of generator installations. With this information, we can prepare and plan shelters and warming centers. Transportation. Utilize town and school buses. 5, identify with a list or map location of emergency call boxes. 6, Schedule a drill that tests the readiness of the emergency response team. A critique must then follow. Before Natalie speaks, I would like to thank our council liaison member, Dr. Henry Pruitt, for attending our meetings. We value his advice and counsel. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Natalie Addison, 49 Voorhees Street, a member of the Teaneck Senior Citizen Advisory Board. Just to add on to what Ms. Jane Hewitt-Irving just stated, I would like to express myself as a senior and a volunteer of the Township of Teaneck Women's Shelter. On May 2013, the American Red Cross provided training session. Upon completion, volunteers were certified to assist in the operation of the warming shelter. It is now going on a year, and the shelter has not been put in place. In time of emergency, this community warming shelter would be another resource place for the senior citizen. Therefore, I hope that the township would implement the warming shelter in the immediate near future. Also, on a good note, I would like to commend the Township of Teaneck for the Residents Preparedness Guide for Emergency pamphlet, which is here. And also, I would like to thank Miss Mary Beth Hubbard and her staff for the superb job they're doing at the Senior Service Center. And thank you, and have a good evening.
Thank you. Next person. Anyone else like to speak? Good and welfare? Dr. Rasheen? Dr. Rasheen, I'm calling on you.
Dr. Alex Rasheen, Teaneck. There are two things actually that I would like to talk about, and this is first one is the well, just mentioned. I think it's not my issue, but the thing is that we don't have budget, and budget will be apparently ready for approval by the state only after elections, which is absolutely unacceptable. And it's, well, I don't know whose responsibility it is, councils or managers, but, well, how the incumbents should ask to run, to be elected if they did not even tell us what's going to done, what will be the budget and all this stuff. I think you should, well, just think about that, because this is undermining your kind of credentials for re-election at all. However, my major point is the following, okay? I try to, well, to tell that I support the Son and Castle candidacies because they know about technology more than probably anybody on this board. However, I asked that they withdraw their lawsuit, and I didn't get any clear answer to that. And the thing that I understand is that, well, in any case, the costs incurred by the council will be paid by taxpayers. And I don't like when the residents of the town sue other residents of the town for money, okay, for anything they do. And I didn't like it in case, I'm sorry for Mr. Broughton, I didn't like it in case of Dr. Toffler, and I don't like it in the case of Son and Castle. So the thing is that I would continue to support their candidacy if they would make a clear statement that they would reimburse the township, the residents, for any incurred costs of their lawsuit, that it won't be paid by other taxpayers, by myself, by you, and all that. Because First of all, it said that it's was to find something about the budget, about the inappropriate. It agrees necessary to know and all this stuff. However, it started with a flood of emails from Trenton, which has nothing to do with our budget, with spending of money and all this stuff. Second thing, it was which was never done. When I was going for petitions, I told people that it's not going to appear anywhere. Okay, because it's not never anybody will check. Okay? There's a clerk to check it, and it's quite thorough. Okay, so now it was taken. Basically, for some reason, okay, I don't know what is the cover. It's like NSA program. Okay, they need to see where I was and what could be my supporters. Okay, so for me, no, I don't want to be looked upon and suspected of wrongdoings and all that. But it looks like that. So it's basically, it was offered to be a clean campaign and it started as dirty one. Okay, looking for dirt. I asked the couple of running people which generally I respect and supported, okay, and will continue to, will just do that, to withdraw it and to give the pledge, authorized pledge, which will be enforceable, that they are going to reimburse the council, the township for any any expenses which are just going to happen because of the defense of the members of the council against this lawsuit. Okay, that's my major thing. But please, again, see whether you did have special session when you had to allocate money at the end of the year, which was not allowed. Right now, budget is not ready. Make a couple of special sessions. Make it prepared before the election. I know that you don't have time to get it approved by the state, but do special things. Announce them for all the residents of the town, because without the budget prepared, you did not do the major work you are here for. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Harris?
Good evening. I just wanted to say...
What's your name for the record, please?
Joe Harris, Teaneck. I just want to say how proud I was of the report given by the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee. It was full of content, specifics, pointed, and I wish I had been on that committee. Unfortunately, the council voted, when I applied to be on that committee a year or two ago, the council, in its infinite wisdom, said no.
Next person.
Mickey Shalem, Teaneck. I lived in Teaneck the past over 40 years right now.
What's your name for the record, please?
And I'm a senior. In fact, I just celebrated the 30th anniversary of my 50th birthday.
Mickey, you can pull the microphone down a little if it's more. You can bend the. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Well, I could use you in my act. Okay. Right now we have over 5,000 seniors living in Teaneck. The last measure was that almost 700 people go to the senior center itself, the Richard Rhoda Senior Center. We have wonderful classes there, and a lot of people are coming. The problem is parking. Okay, we have the same parking that we've had all along. The thing I don't understand is why we have so many spaces for employee parking. The employees are in good health. They're able to walk, and the seniors are with canes and sometimes with walkers. But the main parking area by the front of the building is for employees. Now, something has to be done about that because people are driving around and around. There are some days that classes, they have an overabundance of classes, and there's no place for these people to park, and they just keep riding around and around, and then they go home. Okay, we're now having warm weather, and people will be using Votee Park. I still do not understand why the people that use Votee Park, that are walking, running, jumping, have given preference or using the Richard Rhoda Parking Center. Okay, they have a parking lot by the pool, they have a parking lot at the north area, and we have Palisade Avenue. And they could park there. Why should they be using our parking spots? I was told by somebody on the council that the people that like to walk for about a mile, that the starting point with the sign is right by the Richard Rhoda Center. I suggest we pick up that sign and put it on the other side of the park. You could still walk that mile. It doesn't have to be there. Okay, now we got the municipal parking. I did see that there are more signs that say for employees only. Okay, why doesn't it say for residents only? I mean, who is paying the employees? I think it comes out of our tax money. But the idea is that the residents of this town should feel that you're working toward and helping us. Now, there's a whole area that I see off of East Cedar Lane, that's for employees only. Now, I'm sure they could find their own spots. I was here on Friday, and there were about 12 to 15 spaces for employees only when we were running something at the library, where it's mostly senior citizens. And they could not park. They had to go up on the street above. Again, I don't understand this whole employees only bit. Okay, again, can't you change it to residents only? And it would help us quite a bit. I'd like you to do something about it. I see that when I complained about having 4 spots for the council, which only meets twice a month on Tuesday night, it's been changed to 2 spots. Thank you. There's now a green mask, I call them, over those 2 spots. But we need more spots. We shouldn't have spots separate, okay, for employees. I don't want the employees to hate me, but again, you're healthy people, and there's a lot of people that cannot walk that well, and we should give it to the residents. Okay, now, show that you are working toward helping the seniors of this town. Don't tap us on the head and say, good for you, because I used to be 5'6", I'm now 5'2", and I'm tired of having the tapping go on my head. Anyway, all right, if you could really help, it would be very helpful. Remember, a couple of you are running for office this year. Help the seniors, and you'll get a lot of votes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mickey, before you go, can you give us another joke, please? Can you tell us another joke, please?
Next person, Dr. Powers.
Chuck Powers, Teaneck. Timing is everything. I want to talk, to begin tonight, say, many of you know that I don't think you should have spent I believe it's going to turn out to be $4.4 million on this complex. But if you're going to do it, you should have managed it. You set 4 different agencies in play. You had the engineer, or the acting engineer. You had crew overseeing. You had Gian Ficarra as the architect. And you had the Dakota firm, which it turns out knew nothing about how to handle contaminated soil. This, folks, is the way the area of lead looked on the 31st of March. This is how it looked yesterday. Tomorrow, it will look like this again. It cannot be the case that this town, with $71 million, can't get itself organized to figure out if you've got 6 straight months of dry weather to take the lead out, and everybody in the advisory committee is telling you to do it, and you're still sitting there not being able to open that facility because the lead's sitting there. The unbelievable lack of timing and understanding of what you're doing in the project has got to be overcome, and you must find an engineer to fix it. Number 2, timing is everything. Back on October 30th, 2010, several of you were very concerned about when it is that the agenda gets on the website. And you were very clear in this document that it was the obligation, no matter what she had, for the clerk to get on the website everything that she had. There was no agenda, there was no resolution, there was no ordinance on that website until 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon, although you told her explicitly, including you, Mr. Gusson, to get up there by Thursday afternoon. Timing is everything. Transparency in this town does not exist because we don't know what the heck's going on. You don't know what's going on here. We don't know what's going on there. And more important, nobody has any idea what you're doing with this budget. The manager told you on January 30th in response to the very specific rules that the auditor laid down that said you must introduce your budget by the 14th of March. You must adopt your budget by the 25th of April or the meeting thereafter. And you are in direct violation of what it was that your auditor told you was the law. This is a document I received from the DCA that specifies precisely what you're supposed to do. But more important than that, you haven't closed the books on the 2013 Township Annual Financial Statement. You are now 78 days late. That's incredible. Due 41 days after the 31st of December, you haven't done it, and you have to do that before you can submit anything to the state. I can't understand it. Your manager was right. He gave it to you 47 days earlier. I watched you guys for the last 8 meetings basically not do anything about the budget, and here you are tonight with nothing. What in the world is it that gives you the right to violate the laws of this state so that we don't know who it is we're voting for and what it is you would have voted for? We know what you did for the last 4 years. You took our tax increase up 15%. What are you going to do this year, folks? Are you hiding? What is it that allows you, Mr. Schwartz, you asked very specifically, is this a recommendation, Mr. Garmarini? And he said, no, it's a requirement. But you're sitting here tonight, every one of you, never having touched a single number about the revenues that you folks are going to be laying against expenses. Your township has no idea what you're about to do, but we have some pretty great suspicions. Thank you.
Next person, please. No one? Mr. Flynn?
Thank you. Jason Flynn, Teaneck. You know, when I look at the coming elections and I look at the actions of this town council, I stand here with pride that I'm a resident of Teaneck. When I see some candidates running and they choose not just to file a lawsuit on the eve of an election.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you take the conversations outside, please?
Yeah. They choose to file a lawsuit against council members and the township and the town manager, not just as an institution or as a municipality or as a township, but as several of you individually, and cause the township and the taxpayers to spend money on the eve of an election. And then I compare to the actions of the council and the township over the past few years. And as a parent, as a coach of youth sports, as a director of Teaneck Youth Soccer, as a coach of TBO, as a proud parent of a 13-year-old who took the youth umpiring course this summer at the Rada Center, and he's now an umpire for Teaneck Youth Baseball. And even though, despite it's not raining out for the last several hours, his games were canceled tonight because there's 3 to 5 inches of rain in Votey Park where the sportsplex was not built. So there's hundreds of 8 and 9-year-olds and dozens of teenagers that were going to be out there umpiring and enjoying some healthy activity this evening, despite no rain outside. But all those children are home playing video games and eating unhealthy food versus running around the beautiful parks that this township has. So while everybody's questioning what was done by this town, what makes me really proud is that this town council, despite the tight budget, prioritized what's important, and that's for grandparents to come out, even though when they don't live in Teaneck, to see their grandchildren playing sports, and for 900 children to play soccer every fall, for hundreds of kids to be playing baseball. When I see Ms. Parker spend dozens of hours a year on the youth council, working with people that are not going to go to the polls on May 13th to vote for you. The youth of our town was your priority, and for that, the town council and the 4 incumbents have my sincere support, because their priorities were for the youth and the future of Teaneck, and not necessarily every other thing that was perhaps a little less important, you know. And I really, really appreciate everything you've done for the Teaneck youth, and keep up the great work. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Castle?
Jason Castle, Teaneck. Allow me to clarify what I believe is a pretty big misconception. Open public records are exactly that. They're open public records. Myself and Alan Sohn asked the court to step in and compel individuals named in the suit to release open public records. We asked the court to step in because the individuals named were the custodians of records that we requested. Had no one submitted any responses to the Oprah request, I think that the argument would probably stand that maybe what was requested didn't exist. But when Councilman Katz submits 7 documents that show township business being conducted by 5 members of council through personal email addresses, well, that's a direct violation of the Sunshine Laws. When it takes 77 days for any response, any Oprah in its entirety to actually be completed, well, that's 70 days past due. Let me break it down to an even simpler context. If you're driving through a school zone and the miles per hour speed limit is 15 and you go 20, a cop might stop you and say, let me give you a warning. You're 5 miles over the speed limit. But if you're going 70 miles over a 15 mile per hour speed limit, well, that's just willful negligence. You put people at risk. We asked the court specifically to hold the individual members who were found liable accountable for their court costs. It's a request that we can make. But I think it's important to understand that when a resident steps up and asks a question about open public records, and you on council have the opportunity to answer that question or not answer that question, and the next course of action is for an official document to be submitted, and you have 7 days to comply with that request and you don't, well, the only other course of action, if you read the law, is to hold the individual custodians of record accountable. Now, Mr. Mayor, you're good at rolling your eyes and you're up there and you're shaking your head, and I understand that. But if you actually read the law, If you read the law, it says that you have 7 days to comply. So, no one wanted to go to court. No one intended on going to court. But when you don't comply with the request, and we're now 77 days past the initial date, there's a problem with that. It shows a lack of responsiveness from the municipal government, and it shows a lack of transparency for government in general. So I'm happy that a week and a half ago, after the Bergen Record decided to write an article about it, that my inbox was flooded with emails from the clerk. I'm happy that I finally got a response from the clerk that came from you, Mr. Mayor, last week, more than 70 days past the request that said that you didn't have any documents that related to the Oprah request. But I'm troubled to find out that in the 7 documents that were submitted by Councilman Katz, your email address, personal, the Deputy Mayor's email address, personal, Councilman Katz's email address, personal, Councilman Schwartz's email address, personal, Councilman Stern's email address, personal, shows correspondence about township business, and it wasn't all 5 members of council. So I will forward to all of you the sunshine laws. I'll forward to you the Oprah request, and I thank the clerk for beginning to comply with the request. But, I mean, it's too little too late. Thank you.
Next person, please. Anyone? Mr. Sohn?
Alan Sohn, Teaneck resident. Today is April 29th, almost 4 full months into the new year, and no budget. Simply put, the most fiscally irresponsible budget is the one that simply does not exist. There are a tiny handful among the county's 70 municipalities that don't have a budget, but all those communities have elections in November, 6 months from now. But Teaneck has an election on May 13th, 2 weeks from today, and there'll be no meeting until May 20th, a week after the election. Teaneck's Township Council majority has managed to kick the can and avoid the hard work of crafting a budget for review by voters. Every other municipality in the county with an election on May 13th has been able to introduce a budget in time for evaluation by their voters. The thousands of Teaneck's voters will be unable to see a budget before the election. All they know is that their municipal tax rate has soared by almost 15% in the past 4 years, including nearly 6% last year alone, and has doubled in the past 16 years. I have no idea what the delay is. The Township Council and the Township Manager have offered no explanation whatsoever. The budget was due by law to be introduced on March 14th, and it will be 67 days late when and if it is submitted and introduced on May 20th. The annual financial statement needed to see critical year-end 2013 data is 88 days late. This Township Council has willfully ignored Oprah requests for years, and this is an old issue. The documents already received show a pattern of backroom deals and blatant violations of the Open Public Meetings Act. At the April 1st meeting, we had the same shameless political show where documents that should have been turned over months ago were piled up right here on the desk in a show, a shameless political show, to turn over documents that should have been turned over months ago. On April 1st, no one had the decency to even turn over one of those documents. Until our legal action was taken, and upon its filing, thousands of pages of documents that had been willfully withheld were finally turned over. And these documents show continuing violations and continuing issues that have caused the tax rate to go up and have caused taxes to soar in Teaneck compared to other municipalities. It is possible to craft a responsible budget. Mayor Huddle of Englewood told the Record that his residents will see a third consecutive zero. Ridgewood will have a second zero in 2014. Both have paid fire departments and were hit by tax appeals and snow. Teaneck's equalized tax rates are 19% higher than Ridgewood and 23% higher than Englewood. Those are the numbers. Teaneck will be the only municipality in Bergen County without a budget for taxpayers to see before an election. Whatever the numbers are, I have to assume that if it was a 0% budget, you would have put it through. 1%, 2%, 4%. The numbers that I see, the calculations that I do, show that taxpayers will see an 8% to 10% budget when this council finally bothers to turn over a budget. Whatever the numbers are, I can only assume that the numbers are worse for taxpayers this year than they have ever been before. And I hope that we will finally get an explanation tonight of why this old business, a budget where a month of budget meetings was held, could not be resolved in time for Election Day.
Thank you. Ms. Langer? Oh, no, that's Naomi Kramer. Sorry. Naomi. I can only see somebody in the back.
I guess I've lost height also. Thank you, Naomi Kramer, Teaneck. First, I want to commend you and suggest and be happy that you will be having a task force on mental health and how to deal with that in the community. It is a very large issue. I have a background in psychology and hope that you will be able to follow through on this as soon as possible. Another issue that I've heard about from people in the community is correspondence. I have heard that letters have been written and no response. Now, in the past, and I remember, I've been coming to council meetings a long time, that there used to be on the agenda when you had a meeting, correspondence. And you would list the correspondence. Who wrote the letter, what it was about. So that everybody could see if letters repeatedly came on the agenda so that they weren't being responded to. So I hope that you begin to answer correspondence as it comes in. And I have heard this from very good sources, that letters have been written and no answers have been forthcoming. Also, I just wanted to say that I went to check on the website for the budget, and I printed out empty pages. So it says 2014 capital budget, an empty page, and 2014 municipal budget, an empty page. I'm just saying. And lastly, I don't think there'd be a need for a lawsuit if the Oprah requests were complied with. Everybody's blaming the people who filed the lawsuit, but it would have been totally unnecessary if the Oprah requests were answered. Period. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person. Anyone? Mr. Dunleavy?
Jim Dunleavy, Teaneck, New Jersey, member of Teaneck Junior Soccer League and a member of the Votee Advisory Board. I just want to make almost a side comment and then get to what I wanted to make a comment about. I've had the opportunity for many years within my professional association to do lobbying work, to work with state legislators, and to deal with politics in general. And one of the things that I learned was that people's activities in and around an election get to be pretty damn silly. And the timing of activity relative to that is also quite curious. Certainly issues arise, but the issues that are being discussed here, especially with lawsuits and costs to this town by people who express themselves as being so concerned about the costs involved in running this town, seem a little disingenuous. The issues are there forever, yet they come up just before an election. So I greatly question the motivation of this type of activity and the timing of this activity as it relates to what they really want to get done with this activity at my cost as a citizen. So I would urge the citizens who perhaps are listening and looking tonight to seriously consider what really is the background motivation in doing stuff like this just before an election, if they are so concerned about the community and the town as a whole. The timing of the election should have no meaning if the issue itself is that important. Now, what I really stood up here for is to also remind people that this council has done an unbelievable job of planning and foresight and shown leadership with respect to the votee fields. We came many years ago to start this. Mr. Gusson, and especially, and other members of the council have spent years seeking out, saving, and supporting sources of dollars to get this done in a manner that was the most cost-effective possible for such a large project. And we have a magnificent set of fields, and hopefully more to come, at Votee Field. Something we can be proud of, something our children and their children will be proud of. It will impact people wanting to live in this town. It will impact the ability for some of our sports teams to generate revenue so that they have to charge the people of this town less money in order to play on these fields. There is no downside, both specifically financially or as a community, for these fields. It's only an upside. And so I stand here today to thank you, Council, for what you have done in long-term planning, in putting the children of Teaneck first. I know how difficult the finances are of not only this town, but obviously the state and our own pocketbooks. And I saw firsthand how Mr. Gusson put those dollars in the right place at the right time. He was able to work with his fellow council members to make sure that those fields got done and got done right. Remember, the advisory board that I sit on, and chaired by my good friend Dr. Hoffman, saved this town countless hundreds of thousands of dollars. I've heard some estimates in the millions, because this council had the foresight to bring in experts, including some people who are actually naysayers today, sat on that council and saved this town millions of dollars in costs relative to the remediation of the town, of that park. And so to stand up here and to say something otherwise is totally disingenuous. So I would urge the people who are watching here tonight, the citizens of this town, to take a long, hard look at the costs that are being fostered on this town right now with this specious stuff that I call, that is really just silly season politics. And also keep in mind the fact that these individuals on this council planned for years very well at little or no cost to this town, and you got yourself one of the best sports facilities in this county.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Dr. Hoffman?
This thing usually attacks me. Chuck, I want to copy the picture. All right. Both sides, and we'll have it next to it when it's finally finished. But this is also a broken record about getting the letter out. First and foremost, although Chief Wilson, ex-Chief Wilson, has left, I want to thank him as a citizen as well as a member of multiple volunteer committees for the work that he has done, and as well as the Teaneck Police Department in making our town safe, friendlier, and really an enjoyable place to live and work. And I thank him for that. Similarly, although we are now really starting into baseball season and all the work that needs to be done, as Flynn has mentioned, DPW continues to do magnificent work with shrinking resources, and Fran Wilson and his group have done a magnificent job. And really at the beck and call of the children and the adults as things are needed, and I really do thank them for everything that they've done. Thirdly, as far as the seniors are concerned, I would look at being able to increase some of Palisade Avenue parking near the entrance to Rhoda Center. This is not just for the seniors. The whole issue of parking is always a big issue, even more so with PSE&G there, but certainly now that we have VOTI Sportsplex coming in, and with 7 soccer fields going to be used on a Sunday, parking is going to be a real dilemma, as well as the safety of crossing the street, guarding the facility, as we've talked about, and you know my feeling about having personnel there to make sure that things are done correctly. Just for some points of information, it's not just a soccer field. The field, when fully used, actually has 2 football fields, one of which is lined and one of which can be used. You can look at the scoreboards. It actually has 7 soccer fields to regulation length, 4 at 90-degree angles for short-sided fields for the younger children, and 1 intermediate field, which is now required by the United States Soccer Federation, of which we belong, for the U11s and U12s, so they don't run the entire 110 yards. It is a magnificent facility. Tomorrow, when it's pouring rain, we should drive down there and go past it, and you'll see that we have an island of dryness surrounded by mud, which will also be fixed in time. So I thank the council for all of their support. And I also thank the citizens of Teaneck. It's very important to recognize that a lot of our funding, particularly with the Municipal Open Space Trust Historical Preservation Trust Fund, when it got started, was really done for 2 reasons. One was to self-tax ourselves at 1 cent per 100 of assessment, but also so that we could apply for Green Acres funding at a very good rate of 2%, simple rate for the 20% over 30 years. And we've done that. And we have renewed it twice already. And this is not just the the Recreation Department, but as environmental boards, everybody was involved in getting this done, historical preservation and things of this nature, and we continue to use it, and we'll be using it throughout the area and throughout the township, and purchasing facilities, building things, property, as well as fixing up our many different areas for different types of recreation. As far as the project and when it will be open, I think that the feeling has always been, and Mr. Brown is at least on schedule to talk about it, is that because of past experiences where the police station was taken before it was totally finished and Streetscape had the problems, we're waiting for everything to be done so that we're calling our pants down. So we make sure that everything is done, that we actually have a perfect facility. And once the 25 trees or the 30 trees and the landscaping is finished, we are going to have an area that is going to be just the most magnificent area, to the point where we already are being asked by other organizations of whether or not, when it will be open and whether or not it can be used, such as Bergen County High School Soccer Tournament, the issue of Pop Warner Football, or the new organization. And so this field has also been ticked for softball. So in a type of this thing, how will the high schools work? These are problems that will be coming up, and it's nice to now be able to talk about these issues, where last year we were talking about where are we going to play when it's been raining for 2 months. We have no place to play except in the mud. And again, I thank everyone in the community, and particularly the council, for supporting these efforts that really began in the late 90s and early 2000s from the administration, Mr. Broughton, and the members that are sitting in front of me, as well as for all the council people who have really been supporting the children and the adults, because not only can kids play on the fields, but adults will be playing on the field. We have an internal pack, a walking pack, that will walking for a third of a mile, so they can park further down. We now have 3 handicap spots that'll be able to be parked and be able to use for people who have the state stickers to park right in front of the walking area. So we are making the progress. We have recognized the needs, and I look forward to having it opened when I come back, because I'm going to miss the next 2 council meetings, so I'm going to have a good time those 2 Tuesday nights. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Where's Owen? Wow, it has that much of an effect. Good evening, David Spielman,
First of all and foremost, I want to wish a full and speedy recovery to Councilwoman Parker. She's been noticeably absent of late, and again, I hope she feels better soon. I stepped out, but I do want to point out that football is actually better in the mud. But with regards to Dr. Powers' numbers about the municipalities in Bergen County that have their budgets in already ahead of the May elections, the sample size is 3. There are 3 municipalities out of 70-some-odd municipalities in all of Bergen County that are having their elections on May 13th. Only 3. It's us, Ridgefield, and Teterboro. I can't speak to Ridgefield, but I do not believe that they have a full police fire department. Someone could probably correct me on that. It's Ridgewood, excuse me. I know that Teterboro has no fire department to speak of and no police department to speak of. I'm sure they have and they're a tiny postage stamp, most of which is the airport that's run by the Port Authority. I'm sure they have a much, much easier time and much simpler budgets to deal with than we do. Thank you.
That's it?
Yep.
Okay. Anyone else? Anyone?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Ellie
Still
Katz.
got 5 minutes.
That's okay. I'm here as a resident because I happen to be a resident, lifelong resident, 30 years. I live here with my wife and 3 kids. And last week over Passover, I personally received a lawsuit. And I want to speak about that. I feel this lawsuit is a political stunt being orchestrated by Alan Sohn and Jason Castle. Very good speakers, speak very eloquently. But it's being paid for by every one of our Teaneck taxpayers. First time in my council history I've had the entire township fund a campaign, but you learn something new every day. I personally spent several hours researching all of my emails and keywords to comply with the records request, some going back to 2007. This doesn't really do justice. Maybe if we opened up the 9,000 pages that are here, I don't want to mess up the order. Ironically, Mr. Castle himself acknowledged to me, and again tonight, in a conversation 2 weeks earlier, that he knows I worked diligently to fulfill the request. Yet, I was still sued personally because of their dirty politics. He acknowledged tonight in front of everyone on the record. They are 2 people that are only out for their own selfish reasons. What are they doing by suing Teaneck? What they're doing by suing Teaneck is a disgrace, and they're making every person in Teaneck suffer. They're out to hurt and slander good, hardworking, dedicated individuals. People, how can anyone in Teaneck trust them? The Superior Court Assignment Judge Peter Doyne ordered a hearing for May 30th, more than 2 weeks after the election. Had the judge thought there was any genuine attempt by the targeted council members to hide documents that could affect the election, he would have called for an expedited hearing. Clearly, the judge was not fooled by the baseless legal action. Thank you very much. Oh, and here's my statement. I'd like to put this on the record, please. Put it into minutes.
Anyone else? Seeing no other hands, Good and Welfare is now closed. Want to go first? You want me to go? Okay. I'd like to deal with the very important issues. Ellie, if you can get that box down so I can see the seniors. Thanks.
Put it on the side. Mickey shrank 4 inches, and now we can't see it.
No, we can't see. For the seniors who have come out and started to talk about, again, our emergency responses, and we do have another seminar coming up that I read off on May 8th at the Teaneck Police Headquarters. Since Sandy, we've had several, and several outreach programs, and we've announced them at Council. One of the things that I think that we looked at right after if one of the things that we looked at right after Sandy was, okay, what infrastructure, what things are we lacking, and how do we communicate with people? So there is a system that we looked at in Leonia, and I think that the approximate cost was $300,000. It would have been, and we were thinking, okay, we could communicate with the residents at this point, or we can put in our backup generators at the municipal building, at the police station, and at the Rota Center. And we chose to go first. The first step of this is to put in our generators. So our generators did come online this week, and the tests did work. So yes?
Yeah, okay. I want to also follow up on this when you're done.
Okay. And then we did the generators, and that was the first thing and the priority for us to getting things in terms of our emergency response team. I think that some of the ideas that she gave, and I don't know if she gave it to the clerk, but transportation as well as the other communications, so we'd like to see that, so that we would like to see how we can implement that and to make those recommendations that she had made, the 6 points that we were talking about. But communication is the most important thing. I think that would be our council's next endeavor in spending in capital improvements, and it's a system that would be in every neighborhood that's not electricity dependent, but it will tell you where to go for warming centers, what to do with your water, what to do with whatever emergency would line. And I know the manager wants to add something on this.
Yes, I wrote a list of things that Ms. Irwin said, and she's not in the room right now, but her comments about my reaction to seniors and my dealings with the seniors is absolutely incorrect. It is incorrect. I've met with the seniors several times. I care about seniors, and I understand the concerns of seniors. This town is exceptionally prepared to deal with any type of emergency that should come upon it. Now, after Sandy, we made specific preparations. And I can tell you, we handled Sandy very well with the resources that we had, and we were able to return this town to normal very, very quickly, removing hundreds of trees out of roadways, assisting public service with getting their lines back up, pumping out basements. There's a lot of work that was done here. I just want to go down some of the issues she talked about. Transportation arrangements. What Ms. Irwin wanted was an Adopt a Senior program. I think that that's great. But there's 5,800 people in Teaneck over 65. This township does not have the capacity and will never have the capacity to transport 5,800 people. If 2,000 people needed transportation at a moment's notice, this township of Teaneck by itself could not accomplish that. 2,000 people is an enormous amount of people. 1,000 people, 500 people. However, Teaneck's part of a network, okay? We would call up resources. We would contact the state through our Office of Emergency Management and try to get those resources. Those resources would come from a place like New Jersey Transit, who would have to put buses together to come here to transport people. But you have to understand the capacity of the township. We do not have unlimited capacity in Teaneck. What I've said about Adopt a Senior is that's a great program, but it has to be a community-based program. That is very important. And seniors must prepare themselves now. People of Teaneck have to take care of each other. The police department, we don't have 90 officers working at one time. We only have a certain amount of officers. We have a certain amount of fire officers working at one time. So everybody must prepare themselves.
Mr. Manager, is there anything else? Because I just want to move the meeting along.
Can I just go? I think this is important, and I want to go down this list because she raised a very important point about what is it that we have done. I'll skip to those items. We've installed generators. Our first priority was install generators so that we could function as a municipality. The generator in this building for this complex has come online as of Friday. Everything in this complex will be working in the next emergency. We're self-sufficient. We have power here. We can run the government properly and not be shut down for a week. The generator will come online very shortly, maybe this week, for the Rota Center, which will allow us to have our temporary reception center or an activity or warming center or cooling center. We've collaborated with Board of Education officials to open up their facilities in case of an emergency so that we could open them so residents can come there and have activities in case of emergency, be warm or cool themselves. We've held at least 7 to 8 emergency preparedness seminars. We've issued the resident guide to emergency preparedness. We sent that to every home, every property in the township of Teaneck. We've also allocated approximately $300,000 for a town-wide emergency alert system. This is something that we've been working on. We visited other towns. Inglewood Cliffs has this system. We've been doing our homework to make sure that we get the appropriate system. Council has placed the money in capital, and eventually we will implement that system. We've established an emergency information hotline so residents can call the municipal building using their cell phone to get emergency information. We sent out information to all residents through the Teaneck Times guide requesting volunteers for the CERT team, for the community emergency response team. We also requested that residents volunteer to help with a Adopt a Senior program. But I can tell you right now, we have not received the response that we want from the community to volunteer for those particular programs. We've held training, shelter training with the Red Cross. And we have, I think, 20 or 30 volunteers prepared to assist the township with opening up a temporary reception / shelter at the Rota Center. We've prepared our vans. We do have some transportation. The township has 2 15-passenger vans down at the Rota Center. Those have been prepared to transport people if necessary. We've also submitted a grant application for the schools to receive funding for generators. And this is an ongoing process, and this is something that we've done a lot of work on. And I just won't sit here and have someone come up and say we're unprepared and we've done nothing.
Okay.
We've done a lot over this time.
I think that a lot of people don't know what we do all the time, and it's one of the things that happens is that in communication, like 2 of my. It's interesting how I'll tie these together. One, I had a call today from a woman who wanted a tree planted on her lawn, and she told me the entire story. And you're the mayor, just come and put my tree on the lawn. And I had to explain to her the township form of government that we're in, and how I can't really tell anybody what to do without 4 members of council telling what we have to do. And I had another woman call me today and yesterday about do something about Holy Name Hospital. And you're the mayor. What do you mean you can't do something and handle complaints at Holy Name Hospital? And I had to explain to her the same way how government works. And it's interesting that when people come in who run for office and they come in and they say things and they don't understand, the rest of the count on the fact that you don't understand, the rest of the people don't understand how government works. Now here's the fundamental fact, that if there was a problem with Oprah requests, if there is a problem with the way government is doing something, they could have went to the Government's Record Council, which would have not cost the township 1 single penny. Okay, not 1 single penny. But okay, I hope I'm wrong, because you want to know something? Teaneck 2020 and their supporters or whoever, wherever that meet in the houses, have seen this town not once but twice, and we've won twice. We will win this lawsuit too. Okay? And that is the thing that, Okay.
Just
Thank
to
you.
win the lawsuit, too.
We'll win that lawsuit too. And you were talking about dirty tricks. It's funny. I get a call because somebody gets an alert and people follow me, and lo and behold, my wiki page, is being updated. And it's being updated because I, made some statements about Park 51, about, mosque, World Trade Center Mosque, and all these things that I did is just, all I do is talk about Muslims, and it's just down there, Muslim, 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 Muslim. And I'm like, wow, who is this doing this? And then I go and I see notable alumni from Rutgers University, and whose name is on the edit page? But Alan Soames. So thank you for updating my wiki page on the Rutgers alumni page, and it says in there very clearly, it says Alan Soames. No, you don't have to graduate to be an alumni. And I wonder what kind of dirty tricks you guys are going to play with that if you're involved.
Don't worry, my website was hacked.
No, and it seems like, it's just like all of these different things that happen.
I'm sure nobody had anything to do with it.
Nobody has anything to do with it. But the moment somebody always has these accusations about how corrupt we are for the last 6 years, how incompetent we are for the last 6 years, how we never do anything right for the last 6 years in this town. And you can come in here and you can talk for 5 minutes and say whatever you'd like, but the truth of the matter is, I get what people think about you every day, what they're going to do on May 13th. And I'm very confident that about this town on May 13th is going to make the right decisions. And I can say also, thank you, Dr. Hoffman. Thank you, Mr. Dunleavy, for the work that you have done, and all the members of TJSL, because I played high school in the mud when I was playing soccer. And lo and behold, my cousin just graduated 4 years ago, and he's in med school now, and his ankle always hurts him, and he played soccer also. And he looked at me and he's like, "Oh, you couldn't have fixed it while I was playing." And that's the thing is when you look at the Rota Center and the fight that it was when the Rota Center and who the naysayers were during the Rota Center. And when you look at the naysayers for Glen Point, which is my favorite because they live there now. That's my favorite. And Harts Mountain and all development that happened in Teaneck. And who are these people consistently for the last 30 years who have never said anything nice about the government, and if the government wanted to do something, they would be the first people to stop them. So good luck to you guys on May 13th, because I just find this to be very, it's interesting, Mr. Castle, you're looking at me now and saying I rolled my eyes and all this stuff, but you didn't say the date of when I sent that email to the clerk, even though you got it last week from the clerk. You made it sound like I sent it to you last week, right? And that's the kind of way you parse your words and you do all these things so that people call me to ask me, hey, is this true? So, good luck.
Can I
jump in?
Let me bring it back to a location where we started. I'm the Senior Citizens Advisory Liaison person. So I want to commend the senior citizens for putting together a number of concerns and a number of solutions to those concerns. And I'd like to get a copy of that so we can give a laser response to what it is we have been able to do and some things that we haven't been able to do, and we're working on it. I think that would be a very practical thing to do. In addition to that, the idea of parking at the Rota Center. What does it take for somebody in the Recreation Department to put the starting line somewhere else? It just seemed like an oversimple answer to a question that would give us a half a dozen parking spaces. So I'd recommend that perhaps the township manager talk to Glenda and see if she can find a better spot for the starting gate for those people who like to walk. It's an easy solution. Everybody, I think, will be happy with it, and we'll pick up some parking spaces for senior citizens. I'm glad they allowed me to join. I'm not quite old enough to be in that group, but I'm getting there.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to echo Dr. Pruitt's comments about getting the list. Let's review it. I think, this manager had a information session with the seniors a couple of months back. I think that dialogue should continue. It should be ongoing. what sounds like is that there's sometimes a miscommunication. I mean, certainly the manager is frustrated because he works very hard to try to provide everything for the seniors and the senior groups, and the senior groups are very frustrated because they feel that they're lacking certain things that should be provided. As far as the parking, when we first started with the PSE&G project, our goal was to, after that's done, to take the parking that's across the other side and try to use that for the park in some way, some capacity. What has to happen there is pressure valves, meaning if you're going to use the handicap, it's the all-inclusive playground on the other side, then park on closer to that side. And if you're going to use the track, then park closer to the track. But I like the idea of moving the starting line if that's something that can be done. And it's just one of many suggestions. The other suggestion is this council looked at purchasing some of the homes that are surrounding. Thank goodness we're having this problem. I mean, we have the absolute best Rhoda Center, very well-used recreation center, being used by age 2 to 102. We have now an even better Crown Jewel Park, and it's only going to get better. So, as some of those homes become available, we have to look to, I believe we have to look to grab them as quick as possible so we can add them to additional parkland and additional support for the parkland. So that's my suggestion for there. That's it. First, I'm sorry. I can't stop without thanking, obviously, Dr. Hoffman, Mr. Dunleavy, and all the different coaches, Mr. Flynn, and everyone that's dedicated your personal time to making the township look so good, and the kids that were here tonight stay so active. We talk about Councilwoman Parker's Let's Move program, and getting the kids involved in youth sports early on is absolutely, I believe, essential for conditioning our kids for a better, healthier life, in addition to all the other wonderful things that sports organizations provide our kids. So kudos to all of you that dedicate your time. I know, Dr. Hoffman, you give up countless Sundays and Saturdays and all the other days that you've thrown me off the fields to just give and give and give, and I don't think anyone can take that away from you, and we really appreciate it, and we're really excited for this new addition to Votey Park.
Sure. Just one other thing. The balance sheet for 2013 and the budget for 2014, we need to own the fact that that's late. Whatever the explanation is, it's late.
Mr. Schwartz? Yes, first I just want to say a happy birthday to my wife. It's no better way of spending it than, I'm probably going to sleep in the council chambers tonight, but I'll go out with her tomorrow night. This is better, I think. I wanted to thank the Teaneck people, the Teaneck soccer leaders that came up here and spoke. This is something that we're still getting a lot of heat on wherever we go about the millions spent on some field that's not needed. One of our frequent council attendees, Mr. Vatsky, made a comment that our neighborhood, our town is getting older, and I can say that's absolutely not the case. And while the people who were against it and who continue to be against this do not have kids that are young enough to play in the fields. And I've coached for 9 years now. We probably should do something about the coaches exercising, including myself. But this field is, and I think I take to say this in a good way, is coming out a lot better than I thought. And I just thought this was a field. I didn't think this was a stadium. And I'm sure Deputy Mayor Gusson may be able to expand on this. This is his specialty. But I don't believe it's actually costing us any budgetary monies. Yes, it's open space. Yes, it's grants. Yes, we paid that money. But this is money that was set aside for this exact type of mission, and that's exactly what we did. I'm excited for it, and looking forward to, I think, the groundbreaking that we're going to be scheduling in the next few days. Mr. Kramer, if there's any letters that go unwritten, perhaps if I can suggest that the people email us any comments. I love responding by email. If there's our emails are on the website, and if anyone emails us, they always get an answer. If there's something they don't have an answer to, if they can be forwarded to me, I would love to reply. And I also just wanted to state, as it relates to the lawsuit, I complied. I advised the clerk of what I have. I've given the IT department full access to my emails. If I hear there's 7 emails that have my name on it that I'm not aware of, out of the 9,000 documents, I'll accept whatever the judge decides on that. I do get about 1,000 emails a day, and if there's 7 of them, I thank you for submitting them, but I could not find them, and clearly there's thousands upon thousands of documents. I know a lot of that was there at the last meeting before the lawsuit. I will say that perhaps I didn't say this, and I'll say this politely. I submitted it. So thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, in terms of I guess the lawsuit's a popular topic tonight. In terms of the lawsuit, look, the attorney actually's statement speaks for itself. I think this political stunt will work its way through the courts to a successful conclusion. In terms of the fields, I just want to thank Dr. Hoffman, Mr. Dunleavy, Mr. Flynn, others who spoke tonight regarding that, and recognizing the support that the council has provided over the years. But I just have to say it's because of your leadership throughout the years that has, impressed us and motivated us to move forward with this project. It's a long time in coming. I have a little bit of an affinity towards sports, particularly baseball and basketball, having been a coach and a manager in Little League, as well as Biddy Basketball, as it used to be called in the old days. It's now IYB. Coaching my 4 kids in both of those sports as well. So, I appreciate the leadership you guys have shown, the perseverance you guys have shown, and the patience you guys have shown. Every last dollar, contrary to some of our detractors' comments, is money well spent. And last but not least, as Mr. Schwartz also just mentioned, Mr. Kramer, if there's any kind of emails or correspondence that go unanswered, please let us know. Or just please get in touch with the clerk. I'm sure she'll be happy to help you out. Thank you so much.
I just wanted to say something before, as we're talking about the park. There was 2 times, there's no secret that, Adam has been my friend for a long time, and he's the one who gave me the application for the planning board, and I've never really thanked him for that, nor do I know if I should thank him for that. But that's how I started in public service. And one of the few times between 2008 and 2010 that I had a back and forth with then-Mayor Keeby Fight was over the Most Trust Fund. And what I thought about the Most Trust Fund and how I thought it was a tax, and I think that, if people were not willing to go forward with it, we should get rid of it. And then the next day, Adam calls me, and we come over to his house, and he proceeds to tell me of how we're going to lay off and leverage the funds to build the park, the sportsplex, that we've been trying to build for the last 10 to 13 years. And for many years to come, I'm going to look forward to my kids playing on that, God willing, your kids playing on that. And, I'm sure that your advisors on Parks and Recreation have you been serving on for the last 8 years know that you've been tireless advocates for this, have moved this through the process, and have built consensus around this issue this entire time. So I just wanted to thank you for that, because although my name is going to go on it on a sign somewhere, I'm sure that it's truly, there are a lot of people in this audience, a lot of people who are coaches and are putting their kids to bed right now who deserve the credit, and you're one of them. Thank you.
If I can just make a few comments. A lot of the things that we talked about tonight have been touched on, but I wanted to thank Bill Burke and Anya Flynn, Jim Dunleavy, Ken Hoffman, for everything that they've been able to do, whether it's working with Bill at soccer, whether it's working with Cedric at Teaneck Youth Football, bringing together the youth sport community, working with all of the different leagues, whether it's folks like Stingrays or Teaneck Women's Soccer League, which is a very interesting offshoot of Teaneck Junior Soccer, place for the moms to be able to play soccer. And I think it's no mystery to a lot of folks that I'm not a soccer guy. Quite frankly, I think the sport's a little silly. I didn't play it growing up. I don't know anything about it. I certainly couldn't even help coach my daughter's team because I just don't know anything about the game.
You played football. That's what happened.
But I know that there's about 1,000 kids in Teaneck that love going on that field and kicking that ball around, and they're active and they're exercising, and they're going to end up leading healthier lifestyles as a result of the love of the game that you guys have fostered in your league. So I appreciate everything that you've done and the kind words you shared tonight. As far as some of the concerns raised by Jane Irwin and Natalie Addison and Mickey, I agree with you completely as far as the parking. I think there's too many employee parking spaces at the Rhoda Center. My daughter has a chess class there on Tuesday nights, and my wife comes home and complains to me every time that she has to circle around, and what do we do with my son trying to find a parking space to be able to drop my daughter off, and it's certainly not just 7:30 on Tuesdays that are a problem. I would like to see over the next couple of months that we take a real hard look at the lot across Palisade from the Rhoda Center, where as soon as PSE&G is done staging with the transformer project there, and we have the ability to use that as an overflow parking lot. And yes, Mickey, to move the people that have the ability to walk a little further, move them a little further. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you 1,000%. As far as some of the questions raised from candidates Castle and Sohn, Mr. Castle said, "Read the law," and I'm not a lawyer. The lawyers up here. We have a couple of attorneys with us for the town, and so it's not. I mean, I can read the law. I can do the best I can deciphering it, but I'm certainly not an attorney. But what I do know how to competently do is read a calendar, and I want to walk through an exercise in reading the calendar. And on January 31st, Mr. Castle submitted an open request for, I think, by far the bulk of the total requests were submitted on January 31st. An extension was requested, an extension was granted, and it ended up being March 26th is the final deadline. Whether you're happy about that or not, March 26th is the final deadline. But at public meetings and in private conversations, both you and Mr. Sohn, throughout the month of February and March, threatened, wave the sword, if we don't get what we want, we're going to sue. Now, March 26th comes and goes, and so I guess I was expecting one of two things, either to say thank you for fulfilling the request, or on March 27th to file a lawsuit. But March 27th came and went without a lawsuit being filed. March 28th, 29th, count the days, until April 21st. Now, April 21st is a curious date for a couple reasons. Number one, and I'm not quite sure how it happened, and it's not for me to judge, but April 21st for me was a significant holiday, a significant religious observance day. I'm not allowed to answer the phone. Now, when the Record wrote a story about Castle and Sohn suing Teaneck and council members and manager and clerk, well, when the phone rang for me to give a comment, my side of the story, well, it went unanswered because I wasn't able to answer the phone that day. Some of my colleagues weren't able to answer the phone that day either. How a prepared statement from Mr. Sohn was delivered beforehand seems as though that April 21st date was planned ahead of time, because I know Mr. Sohn didn't answer his phone on the 21st either. Now, April 21st is curious for another reason. April 21st, there's really only one judge that hears Oprah cases. Just Doyen hears Oprah cases. But on April 21st, you would have been guaranteed to not be able to get a hearing date prior to our election. And if transparency were your goal, if good government were your goal, to get these documents so that the information could be shared with the residents, so that it could educate residents before they cast their vote, and have an educated electorate come out and make the right choice, whatever you think the right choice might be, then you'd want those documents, if you didn't think you got all of them, prior to the election. Except that's not what happened. You waited until April 21st, the day when you knew you could not have a hearing prior to the election, to file the suit, on a day the newspaper would run a story, on a day I could not pick up the phone to respond to these ridiculous charges, to then have a hearing date on May 30th, and now you get to wave the sword that we didn't comply up until through the election at the taxpayer's expense with a political stunt that is so transparent, it's as transparent as the government you say you want. Now, when we talk about transparency of documentation, what's even more ridiculous is that for the last 2 years, and some of you may know, Jason and I have actually faced each other in an election before. We ran for the Democratic nomination for 5th Congressional District in New Jersey in June of 2012. Since May 1st of 2012, or May 25th of 2012, the Federal Election Commission has issued quarterly warnings to Castle for Congress for not filing their proper election documents. On May 25th, 2012, was cited with a failure to file. On July 31st, 2012, a failure to file notice. The October quarterly on 10/31/2012, failure to file. 2/15/2013, failure to file. 5/3 of 2013, failure to file. 8/2/2013, failure to file. November 1st, 2013, failure to file. February 19th, 2014, failure to file. I can only assume, with everything going on with the election, you may not have time to file before the May warning comes out as well. Yet, transparency in government seems to be okay as long as nobody has a transparent look on how you financed your campaign in the past, who gave money to your campaign, how those dollars were spent, how the final campaign finances were disposed of. Everything about transparency, I agree with you. We have an obligation to provide transparent government. We have an obligation to meet the requirements of the Open Public Records Act. But we do not have a requirement to be held hostage with an election trick with someone who has a history of failure to file transparency documents. And we can go to the FEC page right now and look at those documents and the warnings that are issued quarter after quarter. As far as Mr. Sohn, the idea that I'm not quite sure when in the Teaneck pantheon of ideas that Mr. Sohn was somehow dubbed a financial wizard. Mr. Sohn's never put together a budget. Mr. Sohn was a part of the completely ineffective and failed Financial Advisory Board. Mr. Sohn has a history of providing absolutely nothing in terms of work product to aid in saving money, raising revenue, or improving the town. Now, when we talk about ideas, it's good to argue ideas. If we have good ideas, let's argue them. If we have good facts, let's argue them. But I don't have any, jealousy for the position you're in. Without having facts or good ideas, you have to argue process. And when we get to the point where the only thing we can argue is process, we've lost the argument. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we'll move on to the consent agenda.
Mayor?
If we could move on with the consent agenda, and someone would like to move the consent agenda, resolutions B through and I think through M. Is that where we got to? There's a resolution L and a resolution M, right?
Yeah, Mayor, I'll.
You have to do them. You have to do.
I'm going to pull L
and M.
L. No, L. Just L.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's, Mayor. I'll move B through. I'll move B through K as well as M, as well as the bill list in the amount of.
Not know was coming.
And actually, I actually need to walk in, if possible, or maybe my bill list. I have a raffle from St. Mark's Episcopal Church, and they have an event on May 17th, so this is the only council meeting that will be available.
Can she walk it in right now?
Can we add that?
She wants to walk in a raffle. Okay, thank you.
And
11 million.
In the amount of
13 million.
$494,000.
I'm sorry, can we start over and have one voice say the number?
$13,494,294.76.
As well as the raffle for geriatric services.
That's it. Okay, need a second. I'll second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Stern?
Yes, with an extension on Resolution L, page 2, item number 1C.
You pulled it.
I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry.
Deputy Mayor Gosselin?
Yes.
Councilmember Pruitt?
Except for exemption on the bills list where I mentioned. Yes.
Councilmember Katz?
Yes, with an abstention on the bill list and resolution C as in Charlie and D as in David.
Councilmember Schwartz?
Yes on all.
Mayor?
Yes. Someone like to move resolution?
I'd like to move Resolution L for the purpose of discussion.
Purpose of discussion?
Purpose of discussion?
Second.
This is so that we can now have a vote, right?
Yeah, second.
What is resolution L? So which resolution? L1D or L1D.
Now, is it a recusal or an abstention? Because can we be on the dais for a recusal?
The difficulty is that because you all have to vote on this, the only alternative was that a second resolution would seem to be warm oversight.
A waste of taxpayer money.
Okay.
This is the
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Stern?
Yes, with an abstention on item 1C on page 2.
Deputy Mayor Gosselin?
Yes, with a recusal on item 1B.
Recusal.
Councilmember Pruitt?
Yes.
Councilmember Katz?
yes with an abstention and a recusal on item 1D.
Councilmember Schwartz?
Yes, with an abstention and recusal on 1E.
Mayor?
Yes, with a recusal on L1A. Okay. Great. Okay. Next item, old business. We have the municipal budget, capital budget, and shared services. The municipal budget, capital budget. We're going to be moving on until we have a full council complement of council. Do we have anything of shared services? No. Anything to report? No. Municipal court security. Where are we with that? Can we have a date where we can start getting those level 2s in?
I can't give you a date right now. I will work on getting a date for you.
What's involved in that process of getting to the point where we know a date?
Well, we have to prepare an ordinance. The ordinance has to be prepared. So
is that the only thing is the preparation of the ordinance?
Okay. I got to meet with the attorney to have.
Okay, so we got to meet with labor attorney to make sure that we're not changing the labor practices without talking to the PBA and negotiate with them to make sure that we can do this. Is that one of the holdups? Okay, and how are we moving along with that? It's moving along?
Yes.
Okay. That's all. I mean, I just want to make sure that, look, police and fire dispatch, which is number 5, and municipal court security, that, we started this discussion at the beginning of the year. It's 2014. Now, 4 months have gone by. I really understand the difficulties, but I want to get these things done this year.
I understand.
Okay. Next items, anything under miscellaneous? New business, communications.
I just want to point out, in response to Ms. Kramer's comments, the item communications is a standard item in the form of our agenda. When there are pertinent communications to discuss, they're listed, but as they are tonight, it is listed as a placeholder with no pertinent communications for us to discuss.
Committee reports. I'm sorry.
On new business,
I'm sorry.
I'd like to nominate.
Oh, my bad. Yeah.
Mr. Larry Bauer as Teaneck representative on the Historic Newbridge Landing Park Commission, as well as Mr. Yoel Fuld as a member of the Hackensack River Greenway Advisory Board.
Thank you. Put that on the agenda.
And if I could put that on the agenda for the next meeting.
Thanks. Okay, committee reports. Dr. Pruitt?
Yeah. I met with the Senior Citizens Advisory Commission, and as a result of that meeting, or one afterward, they came with some concerns that they have, and I think that their concerns are valid, and we'll work to see what we can do to help them be more satisfied with the township.
Anyone else? Committee reports?
Excuse me, Councilman Katz, you want to give a report on our meeting, that FDU meeting?
The township manager and I met with the provost, Dr. Kiernan, from FDU yesterday. The purpose of the meeting was to go over any open items that we may have between the township and FDU to help foster better communications and to help foster also better working relationships. This is part of, I think we've done it now almost every year for the last 5, 6, maybe even longer than that. We've met with them at least once and sometimes even more times than that. In addition, the township manager meets with the provost as well during the year a few times. You know, as you can imagine, being the largest property owner in town, there's constantly issues and concerns and ways that that they need our assistance. And here we were looking for other opportunities where they could be more active and part of the Teaneck fabric. We spoke about introducing them and having a session with the Chamber of Commerce to try to get the merchants involved with their students. And we also spoke about offering township internships. You know, Teaneck has got finance and library, police, and all the different divisions that we have. We can offer great opportunities for the students to learn from what we do here. But it was a very good meeting. I think there were a lot of takeaways and a lot of items that we're going to be following up offline after the meeting. But that's the update. Did I miss anything?
No, I think you got everything.
Okay, good.
Committee report?
Yeah. Oh, bear with me 1 second.
Which committee?
No particular committee at large.
Okay.
Just for the benefit of the public, at Teaneck High School there's something called the Teams Academy, and there's a club in the Teams Academy with a focus on engineering and mathematics. Tonight they had a family catapults and cake event that I had the opportunity to attend prior to our council meeting. Where the students and their parents were going to get together and learn a little bit about catapults and have a competition throwing marshmallows across the third floor media center at the high school.
So like the Capital One commercial? Or?
Yeah, something like that. It was a lot of fun, and look forward to the growth of catapulting as a cross-disciplinary study tool at Teaneck High School. I was approached by several teachers to look at some programming they have coming up in June, and I think it's something that if there's anything that the council can do to help support the Board of Ed and the high school in this endeavor, it's a tremendous vehicle for inspiring kids to take a look at the applicability of mathematics and sciences as far as how entertain and improve their lives. And it was a wonderful time.
Thank you. Now you can move right in along to council listed items.
Printing Garamond.
That's you, Al.
Yeah, so this item, and I certainly wouldn't have listed it in our agenda the way it was listed. Obviously, printing in Garamond will never have the ability to save Teaneck millions of dollars. This is the result of a high school science fair project gone, exactly the opposite of awry. Looking at a study on the volume of ink used in different fonts, a high school student by the name of Suvir Merchandani was able to look at the total number of pages of documents produced by the federal government using a thinner charactered font, using a lighter font, had the ability over the tremendous volume of printing that the federal government does, in his estimation, to save something like $476 million. Now, there's been some poo-pooing of that estimate upon further inspection, but I think this is a perfect example of, as Councilman Katz has often said, if you watch the pennies, the dollars take care of themselves. This is not a silver bullet, but when we went to, and for anyone who picked up a packet for tonight's meeting, noticing the two-sided printing, while it can sometimes make moving through the packet a little more cumbersome, we only wasted half as much paper as this town did 5 or 6 years ago in the past on a regular basis. And so it's an example of looking at how we can make some small changes that don't impact the delivery of services, just how we can do things a little bit smarter. One of the things that I did want to look at is that I think our main photocopiers we pay a lease based on our per page usage, and to see if there's a way we can renegotiate that lease, or if the lease can take into consideration changes like using a less dense ink font, if that can impact our lease rate and save us some money. Obviously, it's not going to save us millions. We don't spend millions of dollars on toner or ink, but it may give us an opportunity to save a few dollars and maybe open our eyes up to other small savings that don't impact the delivery of services.
Thank you. Township Manager's report.
Mayor, can I just say, I'm sorry. I just wanted to apologize to Dr. Powers and the rest of the public for any inconvenience with the website, with the agenda posting. I did post the agenda last Thursday, but unfortunately, as I advised,
Okay, we have a couple of items that I have listed that we want to schedule. Dedication of the inclusive playground. That's one item that we're not going to be able to schedule that item. There's been we've been working with the mother of the child who the park's going to be dedicated to, and some things have come up, so it's going to delay that. So we have the burial ground sign. We have the burial ground sign. It's going to be installed very shortly. We have the dedication of the dog park and a tour for the council of the Votey Park Sportsplex, and we want to include the sports organizations in that tour with the council. So I'm suggesting to the council Sunday, May 4th, that we do all three of those events. We could start at the burial ground at 2 o'clock. Yeah, this Sunday.
That works for me. The only thing I'd like to say,
next Sunday is Mother's Day.
Yeah. I'd like to switch if we can. If we can start at the 2 o'clock, because Mr. Raskakis wanted to be there, and he requested if we can do it at 2.
Okay.
For the dog park.
We have the sign for the dog park. Yes. So what time do you want to start? Which one?
2 at the dog park, then 3 for the burial ground, and then 4 for the tour.
Okay. Okay, so we'll have the dog on May 4th, Sunday, May 4th at 2 p.m. We'll have the dedication of the dog park. At 3 p.m., we'll have the burial ground sign dedication. And at 4 p.m., we'll have a tour of Votey Park by council and the representatives from the sports league.
Okay.
Yes.
Absolutely. And the public is invited.
So we'll put out whatever releases and checks and.
That's why we're discussing in the public, Ms. Kramer.
Okay. So we'll get something out on that tomorrow.
Thank you.
If we can put that in the
email.
Put that in the email. Put that on the website. Make sure that it's as widely distributed as possible.
Yeah. Just a couple other quick items. The council had requested voter information links be placed on the website. Those links were placed on the website under the clerk's page, who is the chief register of voters and the chief elections official. We're having on May 15th, we're having the first revaluation meeting at the Richard Rhoda Center. That's it. Wait, no, I have a couple others. The light rail, the issue with light rail, the letter on light rail.
I'm sorry, they also asked for a resolution. Can we get an
Yeah, I'll bring that on. I'll have that for the next meeting, the resolution that was sent. Also on the next meeting, May 20th, we're going to be inviting Chuck Stewart, Akiva Pudel, and Genevieve Mayberger to that meeting on the 20th for recognition. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you. Township Attorney's report was given. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Second.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Take those back. Take the 40 light tips. Do me a favor.